I have a very special guest here with me today. Cami and I met in person
For the first time.
for the first time like 5 minutes ago. So if this is an awkward first date, that would explain it. The real question I want to start with, am I taller or shorter than I thought it was?
Probably
Don't
expected.
answer that. Don't answer that.
I will say this though. You were my very first fan I've ever had.
And that was literally going to be the very first thing I want to talk about, which was not in the questions. So I'll talk about how Cami and I met. And then I think that's actually a really good starting
That's a good
point for
starting
your
point.
story.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a year ago.
No, it was I think it was July of the year, maybe
Okay.
August, maybe. So it was probably a year ago. Yeah.
So my wife, her job, and she would love that I brought this up here, is she's a social media influencer. That's her job. That's her career. That's what she spends her time doing. And obviously laundry is a big part of my life, a big part of all our lives. I'm definitely amongst my friends here. And I'm sitting on the couch. Elizabeth's like, hey, have you heard of Laundromat Girl? And I was like, I've never heard the name. What platform is it on? And it was on TikTok. And I looked. And at the time, it had 5,000 followers.
Yeah.
And I'm reading the content. I'm like, this is really, really good content. And we'll talk a little bit about why and what's going on there. And out of nowhere, and I never do this, I'm like, I'm going to reach out and basically like, hey, like, I love your content. I really think you're putting out transparent information. Would you be interested in chatting?
Yeah.
And so from your perspective, and we've never talked about this.
Yeah.
What was your perspective of that?
I definitely think I was very shocked because I'm like, I'm a nobody. Like, why is this guy reaching out to me? And I remember you telling on our video call, you're like, I definitely want to work with you in the future. And I'm like, I'm a nobody. Like, I don't think you want to work with me. Like, I didn't feel like I deserve that sort of like reach out. And so it definitely, like, you were definitely one to remember going forward. So it was a good conversation.
And I remember on the end of that phone call, we're chatting and it's like, I only have 5,000 followers. I was like, you are doing this the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling you're going to explode.
Yeah, that's true. You did say that. I do remember that.
So maybe you want to introduce yourself to the crowd with that context.
Sure. So I'm Laundromat Girl. I own a laundromat and I started social media like a year ago in July, and it's worked. It's definitely grown. Everybody loves to see me count money and talk about my laundromat. And so it's been so much fun. I have over 800,000 followers now across all the platforms, and it's just been one of my favorite things I've done lately. So I'm just so happy to be here.
So one of my favorite questions I like to ask laundromat owners of all types is, how did you decide between car washes, self-storage, and laundry? And you had a career before this. So
Right.
Tell us a little about your career and what you're doing before
Yeah.
entering laundry space and how you ended up here.
So I worked as an RN. I was a bone marrow transplant nurse for 10 plus years. And it was 2020. And healthcare in 2020 was really hard. And I think it just kind of got to the point where I'm like, I can't do this job forever. It was very physically, emotionally taxing. And so I just knew I wanted to have a different type of career, but I also didn't want to go back to school to do my master's or anything. And so I knew I needed to buy a business in order to get out of healthcare. And so I was looking at mobile home parks. Actually, I was actually under escrow for a mobile home park. Luckily, it fell through. And then I also was looking at storage units. And I didn't really know much about laundromats. In 2020, people weren't talking about laundromats like they are now. And so when I saw this laundromat listed, I remember calling my brother, who is like pretty financially savvy, really smart guy. And I asked him, like, have you ever heard of laundromats? And he's like, I think so. Like, I think they're great. And so it was just kind of steamrolled from there. And luckily, I had a friend who had an uncle who owned a laundromat. Again, in 2020, there just wasn't a lot of knowledge and education. Cody Sanchez, I don't think was even out back by then. You know what I mean? And so, there just wasn't a lot of info out there. And so I really kind of risked it all and bought this laundromat. And it's just the best decision I ever made. So, yeah.
So let's cover from that point of view. Is how long did you own the laundromat before the concept of Laundromat Girl existed?
Mm-hmm. So I'd owned my laundromat for about 4 years, and that was when I started Laundromat Girl.
Got it. So you were at that point already a successful laundromat and working things through. So maybe share with the audience, what was that like? Maybe I'm going to try this. Mm-hmm. Was there someone else that you saw? Was it just out of scratch? How did that conversation, I'm going to try this for myself?
Yeah. Well, a year ago, I attended a conference and I met Carlos. If you guys know him, he's Laundromat Money. He's a majority on TikTok. He's so great. And he was like, you should do this. He's like, you're a girl. It's like different, you know? I'm like, okay. So I wasn't even for sure. I didn't even know why I was doing, but I'm like, this might be fun. I kind of toyed with social media in the past a little bit before. And so I kind of just like did it and not really knowing where I even wanted it to go. I had absolutely no direction in it. And since then I've learned, and when I talk to other people who are wanting to get onto social media, like don't go into social media thinking you have a plan because it could totally pivot in one way or the other. And you have to just be open to it. I never, ever would have dreamed sitting here, a year ago. Like if I had attended here a year ago and hadn't started social media, no one would know who I am. You know what I mean? I'm just like a nobody. But that's the power of social media. And that's why I think whether you're trying to be like, talk about laundromats or even just trying to talk about your business to grow your own business, your own pickup and delivery, like every business needs to be on social media. And I'm like a huge advocate of that because that's really the best way you're going to grow. People aren't looking up newspapers, magazines, websites. People are going to TikTok, they're going to Instagram. So that's the best way to really grow.
So let me ask you a question. So you sit down, you have this idea, you start putting the time and effort in. Would it be safe to say that it exploded at one point?
Yeah, my second video went viral. It hit over 1 million views. And so once that second video, that really gave me the gumption to post a third and a fourth. And then it just kind of kept going from there.
Okay, so that I wouldn't call it success because success is over time. There was a moment
Right.
where you got lucky, and I think
For sure.
for
Oh, yeah.
opportunity, right? And when you woke up and there's all those comments and all those views, like what went through your minds?
Well, the most common comment I get across the board and still to this day is, how do I start? Where do I go? Can you tell me how to do this? That was by far, and again, still the most common question that I get. And so that's why I've kind of shifted my platform to helping others know how to do it because I'm literally just answering their questions. And that's where my social media has pivoted because of that.
So I've never asked you this question as well as I've gotten to know you, but you share stuff so wildly transparently. And I also like I've gotten to know you extremely well. Like you're putting real numbers out that we've all seen together. And it's like, why? Why of all the things you had a successful business. I know you didn't go into it to be laundromat girl. You went into it because you wanted to do something. Like, why did you decide to be so radically transparent? Like, especially even today.
Right. I think because the way social media is kind of going, like say 5, 6, 7 years ago, Instagram was very polished and clean and pretty. And now all people want are just like raw, behind the scenes kind of a thing. People don't want to see, the pretty side. And so I've kind of catered to that angle of just being very transparent and like I own a laundromat. Like this isn't pretty. I don't dress up when I go to the laundromat. I don't put makeup on when I go to the laundromat. You know what I mean? And so like this is just like the reality of the business is that. And I think people appreciate that and I get a lot of good comments about it that this is at the end of the day, I own a laundromat and this is just the realness of it. And so I think people really appreciate it because it's more of just people don't want to get sold or to be lied to. And so I really do try to be honest in everything that I say, in the good and the bad.
So I'm going to ask you this question. It was not in here, so I'm
Oh,
totally putting you
okay.
on the
Let's
spot.
go.
So you by far have a much bigger platform than I do, but like I do really try to put myself out there, especially when it comes to comments about our product. Like I'm out there taking bullets in front of all of you quite often, very publicly, and I can receive 100 positive things. And one little like, oh, I don't like this, like it just eats me up inside. The scale of what you're dealing with is so much larger than I'm doing. How do you deal with that balance between like you're out there doing things, but people have opinions and sometimes they're knee jerk
Yeah.
reactions and sometimes they're
Yeah.
unwarranted. Some of them are just haters. Like
Totally.
how have you dealt with that, like mentally or just in general?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like overall, most of my followers are actually really kind. They're very nice. They're very much like, good job. They're like almost like proud of me. Like they really are the majority are very nice people. Sorry. It's just my mom. And so I feel really grateful and lucky about that. But of course I do get like those comments. And I think I've just kind of gotten to the point where I just don't give energy to them. I don't, and I'm also very heavy handed with the block button. I block people all the time. And I actually got an email 2 days ago from a guy that I had blocked, and he emailed me to say, sorry, can you unblock me? Which I still haven't responded. I haven't decided yet. But yeah, so like if someone says something not nice, I will block them. I don't need their follow. But overall, honestly, probably 99% of the comments I get are actually very nice and kind and helpful. And so that's really good.
I can't use the block button, unfortunately. So your business, right? So you think you're a business owner, you're a manager, you're running self-service, you're doing pickup and delivery, and you're now running this, let's call it some degree of social media empire. Like, how do you balance the time between where you're spending your time?
It's not easy, and my social media and my laundromat are like completely different businesses, and I separate them. I don't try and get new customers to my laundromat through my social media purely out of like safety. I don't want followers to know where I'm located or anything like that, especially because I show money, and so it's literally for safety reasons that I don't share my city or state ever. But I Balancing it is difficult. I recently just hired my sister to help with some things. But social media is more of like the creative side of like, oh, it's kind of fun to think about what am I going to talk about? How am I going to make this video? And laundromat is very much like the nuts and bolts, right? Like, okay, we need to do a staffing meeting. How are we going to get a new client or a customer or take on this new account? So they're completely different sides of my brain, honestly. But I have now that I'm 5 years in, I've been able to grow my laundromat and my pickup and delivery. So it's pretty self maintained. Like I have such an amazing team, such a great manager that has been able to help me kind of step away from that. Even though, at the end of the day, my laundromat's my content. So I also can't completely remove myself from my laundromat because I need content in a sense. And so I really am more involved in my laundromat than if I would have had I not been on social media because I need to be there to show you guys the day to day. So I'll never completely remove myself from my laundromat for that reason, so that I can still show you guys what I do. So it is definitely tricky on balancing both, and so it's my busy season for where I am is coming up into fall, and so this is going to be. I'm gonna have to. It's always a balancing act every busy season for me, managing both of them. So it's just one of those things. I just wing it.
So, how has your content evolved from this is what I've learned to like this is what I can teach you? Because like that is something I think I've seen over the last like 6 months or so. Is you start to realize like, oh, I've been doing this for a while, and there's things that I'm getting questions about that I have answers to. Like, how have you thought about that? Because you're really putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
and no one wants to be seen as a know-it-all. I think you walk that line incredibly well. But how do you think about creating content where like, this is what I've learned, or this is what I'm teaching you?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was very hard when people would ask me questions because it was kind of that imposter syndrome, like, oh, I don't know if I'm the best person. But, with every question that I get asked, especially in the beginning when I was still learning how to teach about the business, was that with every question I got asked, I actually knew the answer. And so I learned to give myself more credit that all the mistakes I made in the beginning, because I had no mentor, no help. I was literally teaching myself that I really did know more than I thought I did after going through all these mistakes and experiences of the previous 4 years of owning a laundromat. And so it definitely shifted when I gained more confidence on social media like I can teach, and I feel like the answers I'm giving are good ones. Like these are honest answers. And so I think it just trusting myself and being able to teach others. It took me a few months to be able to be confident in doing that.
So actually, I have a question. So like, I spend a lot of time at my kids' hockey games. I feel like every time I talk to you, I'm talking about either my son or daughter's hockey game. And we've all been through this experience where, maybe it's not your metaphorical hockey. You're sitting across the glass and someone's like, what do you do? I'm like, I work in laundry. They go, laundry? I go, it's cooler than you think. Like, how did you take something that I think like the average audience would think of like put in one bucket? How did you make it palatable? How did you make it? I don't want to call it exciting because I think that would be mislabeling it.
Yeah.
How did you make it interesting?
I think storytelling is a really big deal on social media. Even in your own businesses, if you're doing pickup and delivery, find a story, talk about a customer, do the day in the life. Storytelling, I think, is really key. People just want to know, are just intrigued, especially with laundromats. It's so different. Like I have nieces that are like teenagers and they follow me and they like what I do only because it's like, it's not hair, beauty, makeup. You know what I mean? It's something so different that people are just like, oh, it's just so intriguing because people don't even think about laundromat as a business as well as an owner. And so it's just so different that people are intrigued by it. And so I don't know. I think story playing plays a big part, and also doing like short clips to keep people's attention. People get, we're in that age where we get distracted really easy. So I make my videos to have really short clips, try and keep people engaged. So there's definitely like little tricks in social media, but that's what I've learned.
So, actually, I already asked that one. Has it actually brought you, in your eyes, any more business to your laundromat?
No, because I separate them.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't try and get business to come to my laundromat. I do have like a lot of my commercial accounts, they'll follow me on my laundromat girl page, which I don't like, but it's whatever. But yeah, I don't try and get more business to my laundromat through laundromat girl.
So, I'm kind of like channeling my wife here as I think about this. Is like, from my experience, a lot of people do social and stuff like this and think about like, what's the benefit? Like, how much ad revenue did I make from doing this? And like, that's a part of it, right? So you have not focused on growing the actual laundromat side of the business. So what are some of like the fringe benefits, let's call them, that you've unlocked through the industry by putting yourself out there more and more? I think you're sitting next to one of those people, and as your mom called, you might want to pick up the phone and she'd be really proud of you. But like, this is one of those things where like you put yourself out there. That's how we met. And like, obviously we've been as helpful as we can be to each other, but like, has there been other doors or even opinions? Like, has it unlocked other things that are less monetarily, like outside of ad revenue?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've definitely worked with like Sense or Launderworks. I've worked with Curbside Laundry. So I've been able to work with some businesses to put into my laundromat, which I absolutely love, especially because like I don't just pick businesses because they reached out to me. It's more like, oh, I've always known about Launderworks since like the first year of owning my laundromat. It was like on my dream board of getting. So like I only pick companies that I've always wanted to work with. Like Curbside, I've been with them for 5 years prior to even, partnering with them on my social media page. And so that's been really nice. But I also, been able, like, since I've been here for the last just a few hours, I've met so many followers, which has been like so fun. It's just like such like a little dream of mine. So yeah, I love being able to connect with other people all across the US. And I mentioned on my stories last week that I was thinking about going on like a laundromat tour and going to other laundromats, because on my page, I'm only showcasing my laundromat. So all my followers only see my laundromat. I thought it'd be so fun to go to other laundromats, talk to other owners and show this is what they did. This is what's working for them. So like just like so many doors have been open through social media. Like it's just honestly shocking. And so that's why everyone should get on.
You should go visit Morgan. I feel like I've not been to her location,
Yeah.
but how she runs her operations
Yeah.
and like her ethos, how she runs it, it is very unique. And I think she's a successful operator because of it. So there's one
Okay,
intro for
done.
you.
Done.
So I am going to ask some selfish questions here, right? So your laundromat before we met, right? Coin only card. What was it?
Coin only.
Okay.
Yeah.
You added a product.
Yes.
Yes. You want to tell people what that wonderful product was?
Yes. So I added Launderworks in April. And so I was only quarter, right? Only coin. And I swear, I promise I'm not being salesy when I say this, but once I got Launderworks, it was like this like weight lifted off my shoulders, because I don't have this huge obligation like, oh, it's Tuesday, I better get in. I need to go dump the quarters, or my changers are probably empty. I should probably get in. And so it kind of really restricted my life. I'm like, okay, I can only really be out of town 4 days a week, 4 days at a time, because by then I need to go dump the quarters. You know what I mean? And so and I trusted my employees, but I also don't want to give them too many opportunities, right? So it's like this limitation, and it's a weird thing to ask other people to do for you. So, anyways, having Launderworks really has like completely shifted my like long term lifestyle of owning my laundromat. One other thing is, so the guy who I bought my laundromat from, he had owned my laundromat for about 5 years and sold it. And I really think the largest reason why he sold that laundromat is because he lived an hour and a half away from this, not my now laundromat. And I really think the reason he sold it is because he got burnt out in traveling to empty those quarters. And so, because I still talk to this guy like probably once a month, we have a really great relationship. And he always talks about how he's like so regrets that he sold this laundromat. And so seeing his perspective on like literally the reason why he sold this really great business is because he got burnt out from it. Anything I can do now as an owner to prevent that from happening in 2, 3, 10 years, I'm going to do it, because owning a laundromat is such a great asset to have. Like, I want to prevent me feeling the need to sell it because I'm tired of it or I'm burnt out of it, because this is something that you keep for a really long time. So having LaundryWorks is only going to help me in not getting burnt out on it and keeping it long term.
So I asked a completely self-serving question because I actually did have a real question that came on the back one that's important. So in the early days, a lot of your content, like people just love seeing you dump those coins. And I remember we even talked about it. It's like, hey, I'd like all the benefits of the system, but I think about the content that I create,
Hmm.
like what
Hmm.
am I going to create? So when you think about not even just TikTok, but Instagram, and like, but there's going to be another one down the road. And I think we've seen people, even maybe in this building, start on other platforms, and then the tides change. They didn't keep that same level of success. So you obviously had a material change to your content. How do you think about not only staying up to speed with your content, but also like how the world can change?
When it doing advancements like at the laundromat, like
No,
in
no,
tech.
just in general. Like you made a ton of coin videos,
Oh,
and I
oh, I
remember like
see.
adding Launderworks. Like you had to
Mhm.
sit down and think about like how am
How
I
am I
taking
gonna
my
do this?
contact roadmap
Right.
now?
Yeah. I mean, I literally did keep 3 machines to keep quarter just so I could have the content. So I still do have 3 machines for quarters. Granted, my customers rarely use them, but I kind of still needed it, because people love that for some odd reason. But yeah, I really did have to like, okay, how else can I quote unquote entertain to keep people intrigued to keep watching? Yeah. So it is something that I have to think about with my laundromat and my social media is, how can I connect them to give the best value to my followers? As also, I'm also running a laundromat. At the end of the day, my laundromat is my number one. Like, my laundromat will always come first over social media. So I really still have to prioritize that.
All right, so you've mastered the nurse turned entrepreneur, right? So in your eyes, what's next for Laundromat Girl, the brand?
Um, yeah. So again, talking a little bit about laundromat tour on girl going on tour. So that's kind of workings in the workings. And then I want to say that's kind of like my next big goal probably is just, oh, and I want to get 1 million followers by Christmas. That was another one. So
That'd be a
I'm
great
close.
Christmas present.
You're right. I'm only like 200,000 away. I'm like, okay, I think I can do it.
I
So
mean, there's
yeah.
9,000 here. Maybe we could do some help
Right.
there.
Okay.
So I feel like you made this jump personally, but I think you did it really publicly. And I think maybe not necessarily this group here, maybe there's some of those, but like you made a leap to bet on yourself, and you bet on yourself a bunch of times. If someone here or someone watching or someone doing this content down the road, like they're contemplating making that jump, what would you say to them?
I say do it, of course. I had a friend tell me not long ago, and I've known this friend for a very long time. She's like, the one thing that I've really learned about you is that you do things dirty. And I'm like, you're kind of right, because there's a lot of things I do that I'm like, well, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'll figure it out. Like, I don't know how to own a laundromat, and I don't know who's going to teach me how to do it, but I'll figure it out. I don't know how to start social media, but I'll figure it out. So I think just having like just trusting yourself that you can do it, and just and the fact that someone else has done it means you can do it as well. And so I think just going in with that kind of gumption of risk and, trusting yourself, I think so many people are more capable of what they're actually doing.
What is the biggest skill just across your laundromat ownership or even Laundromat Girl? What skill do you think you've picked up along the way that like Cami the nurse,
Oh,
Cami
yeah.
the business owner,
Yeah.
you look back and you're like, wow, I can't believe I've achieved this skill? Or
I would say just like having grit. Like, as a business owner, like the buck ends with you. And so it's like, when someone, as a nurse, when I had a problem, I would go to this person and they would figure it out. But as a business owner, it's like, all right, it ends with me. How am I going to figure this out? Who am I going to talk to? Who are my resources? And so I think just having that like grit and just like never giving up and just having to figure it out. And there's, owning a laundromat, you don't have to recreate the wheel. Like, it's not a hard business. I wouldn't say it's a hard business. It's actually a relatively simple business. But you just have to be proactive in jumping in to learn it. And so, yeah, I love this business, and it's definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made. Even with social media, not social media, I would still love this business just as much had I not jumped on. So, yeah, so I am so grateful, and I'm so excited to be here. This is my first clean show, and it's already been a blast.
actually, I will say this is my first clean show as well.
Oh, yeah?
And I actually meant to open with this. It's like, it is one of those moments where you built a brand, but this is one of those things too where I think about the time and effort we put over the last 5 years,
Yeah.
but also really myself the last 2 years. And the fact that we do these things, and we talked about this coming up, like you show up. We put these things on. There's no guarantee you're going to be here. There's no guarantee of all the choices you have, you're going to come here. It's when you wake up and people take time out of their day and their investment and their limited time to come see us. Like, there's a moment where I'm sure you're thinking the same thing I am, which is like, thank you. But I also want to say something super nice about Cami is sometimes you have these people that are out there, like on social media, and you're like, is that who this person really is? I feel like I have known you for a while now, and I feel like you are very authentically yourself. And I will tell you right now, what you see is what you get, and that is who this person is. And I feel like I've known you for a while now. So I want to say I appreciate
Oh,
the
thank
support
you.
you've given us over the last 2 years. I want to say the support you've given me over the last 2 years, and I want the best for everybody. But like every time I see you going further, I am so happy for you
Oh,
because I
thank
think
you.
it's really been a pleasure getting to know you the last 2 years. And like,
Thank
I wish you
you.
absolutely nothing but success.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, cool. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank
Bye. Bye.
you.